You are now entering the Mysterious Historians podcast. Baseball, America's favorite pastime. Recently, they passed rules to make it go faster. Are we losing interest in this timeless game? Or will it outlast us like we outlasted the dinosaurs? Today, I sit down with retiree and baseball aficionado Clarence Mills to discuss all that is ball. But first, my nails are too shiny. If I gesture too much in the sun or in bright lighting, I often blind my talking companions. I don't need polish, I need dough. Brenda's Only Matte Nail Polish.com is the place for me, where my nails are matte and the conversation sparkling. Check it out wherever you go online. And now, on to our show. Clarence Mills, thank you so much for being here.
What a grand pleasure it is to be here to talk about the grand old game, one of my passions. And you know what? If I wasn't here, I'd be talking about it anyway with someone else, somewhere else. So let's play ball.
We're honored. Tell me, first of all, your history with the game. Why the passion for baseball?
Well, I've loved baseball ever since I was a Pee Wee Junior player. I'd show up at a ballpark or just a dirt patch or a parking lot or the woods. I'd show up in the woods and a tree would be first base, a stone would be second base, and a rabbit would be third base.
Were there no children where you grew up?
You know what? Sometimes there were children running about those parking lots, falling face first and scraping their face open on the parking lot. But other times it would just be me in the woods, running to the tree, the stone, and then running after that rabbit that was third base, and he'd skip away faster than Willie Mays himself.
You paint a lonely yet nostalgic picture of that game.
Baseball is a game for the lonely.
Explain.
You sit there for hours and hours, and the long drone of baseball on the radio takes you away, keeps you company, and I feel like the announcers are talking to me. They're saying, "Oh, that's a line drive down the right field line," and I'm sitting there friendless and alone oftentimes. I mean, I do have a wife, but she will go away and leave me to my devices, baseball. And I listen, and it keeps me company. So baseball is a friend to the lonely. And I will say, you brought up in your intro, I was eavesdropping from the other room.
Oh.
That they instituted some things to make the game move faster. I don't care for those new rules.
What kind of betrayal of the fundamental qualities of baseball are these new rules?
I'm a purist. And if a game is going to go into extra innings, let it go 17 innings. I don't care if I show up at the ballpark at 7 p.m. and don't leave until 3 a.m. But now they do these things to make the game run faster. They have a ghost runner. Don't get scared.
For a moment, I was terrified.
The ghost runner has nothing to do with a specter or spirits. The ghost runner is a man who starts the inning on second base. So it's like you're some rich. Are we allowed to cuss?
Go ahead.
Motherfucking bastard born on third base in life. Do you know what it means to be born on third base in life?
I'm assuming it's some sort of metaphor for privilege and wealth and whiteness.
Your beauty is matched by your brilliance. And they start the runner on second base like he was born on third base with a silver spoon in his mouth, and not the kind of plastic spoon that you use to eat a delicious sundae out of a tiny helmet at the ballpark. No, a fine silver spoon, or maybe a beautiful pewter spoon. That's a collectible spoon that maybe has one of the 50 states on it.
Before we get too passionate about what's wrong with baseball today,
Yes.
let's start with the beginnings of baseball. Where does it begin? When do people first put ball to bat?
The ball was first put to bat in Cooperstown, New York, invented by a man named Abner Doubleday. And Cooperstown, New York, the site of the first baseball game, supposedly, is now home to the Baseball Hall of Fame Museum, where all of the boys of summer have their plaques on the wall, their handsome faces, their ugly faces. You know, some ball players are handsome, some are ugly as sin, but they're all winners if you made it to the Hall of Fame. You know, those plaques on the wall, they get all the details. They get both eyes. They get the nose and the mouth, and if a player had a mustache, they give him a mustache on the plaque.
There's too many plaques out there with only one eye of the person they're representing.
A one-eyed plaque is a half-done slop job.
It's a famous saying.
So baseball began in good old Cooperstown, New York, up there in the woods. You know, very difficult to get to the town of Cooperstown. You have to, you land at an airport, maybe in Albany, maybe in New York City, maybe LaGuardia, maybe
Syracuse.
JFK, Syracuse, Buffalo, the greater upstate area. And then you got to drive through the woods. Those woods, treacherous. One time, I drove through at night, and my car had no headlights.
On purpose?
Yes, I was testing myself to see if I could make that journey that I'd made so many times.
And what would you discover from this test? That you're capable of driving in low lighting?
I discovered in that test that I made a very bad decision, and I wound up in a ditch, my car wheels spinning. I ran from that car, and I caught a ride with a truck, and I still owe a lot of money to Enterprise Rent-A-Car.
So we're just a little bit ways up from the crime scene that you abandoned.
Yes, I abandoned a wrecked rented car.
We are starting our baseball with sticks and balls. How do we go from there to Major League Baseball? How does it sweep the nation like it did?
Slow down.
Sorry.
You had the company teams, all of the tobacco companies, the bubble gum companies. They had their squads, and they would go barnstorming and play against each other. So my squad from Kalamazoo will go to play your squad from Rockford, and then my squad from Rockford will go to play your squad from Peoria, and we'll drive around on a bus, or if buses weren't invented yet, we'll go on horse and buggy. And along the way, we'll sing songs. 99 bottles of beer on the wall, 99 bottles of beer.
You have a beautiful voice.
Ah, thank you. You know, I was a cigarette smoker for many years. It was much better in my youth. I really could carry a tune. I was a choir boy, you know. But that's a tale for a different day.
History of choir, I'll have you back.
Ooh, please.
And emphysema.
Yes, yes. Oh, it's a tough road. So they would travel around. They would play each other. They would engage in baseball, the grand old game, heavy bats, leather balls sewn together. You know, it's not like the bright white balls they have today. These balls were brown. They were weathered. You know, it looked like... Are you familiar with the horror movie Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
I am.
It looked like you took the skin from Leatherface himself and stitched it into a ball and then played 9 innings with it. That's what those balls look like. If you really stop and think about it and hold it next to a mummified body, which I've actually done, it looks like it's human skin. But I assure you it's not.
Now, a football is called a pigskin because it used to be made of pig skin. Do we know what beast lent their skin to the baseball?
Well, early on, it was anything they could get their hands on. It would be rat skin, bird skin, maybe a raccoon. You skin them, you get all that hair out of there, and then you wrap it first you get a big ball of twine, and then you wrap the skin around it, and then you stitch it up. I gotta go back to Leatherface, because it was such a disgusting process making the balls. The drippings, so many animal drippings. And if you didn't let those balls and that skin dry and age properly, you'd whack that ball with your big old bat, and the guts would explode out of the ball. The blood would whip the pitcher in the face like you're at a crime scene. Oh.
Now, I know that many historians don't spend enough time on the gore and goo of early baseball, but let's get back on topic. So we have
There was a lot more gore than that. The spikes and razor blades on the bottom of the cleats. A danger to anyone who stepped foot on the field. You're trying to steal a base, and if you're protecting that base, I want to catch the ball to tag out the swift-footed runner, and he wants to scare me from getting in his way, and he comes in cleats up, and those cleats, it's like a bull. It's like a mad dog coming at your teeth bad, and they dig into your skin and they cut your calf. Ah!
So when do we move from this Mad Max post-apocalyptic baseball game to regulation baseball that we know today?
I believe the year was 1892 when the Pittsburgh Paramounts changed their names to the Pirates. And I'll tell you why that happened. One of the players got spiked with one of those cleats right in the eyeball, and he had to put on an eye patch. And the owner of the team says, well, that's a fanciful costume. We're going to be the Pirates now. And the guy with the eye patch said, are you making fun of my disability? That's ableist. They were very in the know back then.
Yeah, I thought ableist was a newer term.
Yes, no, it was coined around the grand old game. And they became the Pirates. And the Pirates played the first game, and the National Baseball League was born. Then you had the National League. But just like there are Democrats and Republicans, someone wanted to start a different league. They had the American League. So we had the National League and the American League. And they got married and became the major leagues.
What was the difference between the National League and the American League?
Well, early on, at the turn of the century, the dawn of the 1900s, if you were a player on a National League team, they insisted you have a handlebar mustache.
Oh.
If you were a player in the American League, they insisted you were clean-shaven like a newborn babe. And then, when the World Series was played, it would be stashes versus clean. It was sponsored by Gillette. I'm not trying to do a commercial for that very fine brand of razors that I've often used to shave my own face to get the closest shave I've ever had.
Uh-oh, I smell an endorsement.
But they sponsored that World Series, and the mustaches played the clean-shavens every year until the 1920s, when Babe Ruth said, I don't like any of this. He came in drinking a beer, smoking a cigar, and he said, if somebody wants to have a mustache in the American League, let him. If somebody wants to shave that stupid thing off their face in the National League, let him. And they said, Babe Ruth, you're the home run champ. We're going to take your advice, and we're going to change the whole kit and caboodle. So they switched it around. They did a switcheroo. Walter Johnson, the big train who threw the fastball for the Washington Senators, he said, Babe, I may be your adversary on the field when I'm trying to throw my speedball by you and make you look like a fool, or you're trying to hit it out into the bleachers over into Central Park. But when it comes to mustaches and clean-shaven baby faces, kid, you got the right idea.
I'm glad you brought up Babe Ruth. He might arguably be the most famous baseball player that has ever lived. Let's go through some of these titans of the sport.
If I could give you a fun fact about Babe Ruth,
I'd love it.
he never ate Baby Ruth candy bars. Baby Ruth candy bars weren't even named after him. And in fact, Babe Ruth, he was a Kit Kat man.
Oh. Tell me more facts about Mr. Ruth. Do you agree that he's one of the greatest baseball players to ever live?
You know what? I would definitely put him in the top 100 players of all time.
That's a large list.
Oh, well, he was a large man. And he had, he swung a big bat. And you know what? His toenails, he'd scratch. Sometimes he'd take off his baseball boot. And he'd scratch his name to the dirt right around home plate.
Oh, that hasn't made it into the history books.
And it would say Babe was here.
I heard a lot about him pointing and calling his shot. Is he the first person to do this? Is he overinflated? He gets too much of a reputation?
Too much of a reputation. That was de rigueur. That was par for the course. That was of the time calling his shot. Let me tell you about a player named Whitey Gomez. Whitey Gomez back in the day, he'd blow a kiss to center field, and that mean his home run was going to land in the seats. And, man, if he blew a kiss that day, you knew that fastball was going to leave the park like a bullet train from Osaka to Kyoto.
Another famous baseball player. We're fast-forwarding a bit.
Oh, would you like one more Babe Ruth story?
Yes, I'd love it.
Yes, this story is actually true. Sometimes you have to say that to put brackets around something.
I hoped all of your stories were true.
They're all true, and especially this story, which is true.
Okay.
We live in a horrible time to be alive.
I agree.
Yes, the world is a cesspool, and all of the media. I just want the old time game on the radio. There's too much TMZs. Everywhere you look, it's a TMZ. Speaking of which, you didn't have that in Babe Ruth's time, and this very true story. Babe Ruth was on a train car with the New York Yankees traveling to the next destination, to play the grand old game in another city.
I understood before you explained.
On the train, you had the players, the coaches, and all the reporters. Well, all the reporters were sitting there in the dining car, and all of a sudden, bursting through the dining car on this train comes Babe Ruth, naked as the day he was born, running through this dining car. Moments later, chasing him from behind was a lovely woman, also naked, carrying a butcher knife. Ran through the train. And I'll tell you what, that did not make it in the papers. That did not make it on the radio. It's just the stuff of legend that now we talk about decades later. But if that happened today, oh boy, you'd have the TMZs up and down showing you pictures of the knife, you'd have video of the nudity. I never look at videos of nudity.
Oh, I only like stills of nudity.
If it's a tasteful nude, I could be persuaded, but so many of the videos of the nudity, they take it all the way.
Also, bodies in motion. It's no fun to see a naked body move.
No, I don't want to see a video where they go all the way.
Just up to, but not.
Not even. I don't even want to sniff around.
I don't want my toenails to steal the show, but I don't want them to be wallflowers either. Brenda's Only Matte NailPolish.com has shades that are subtle, demure, and non-confrontational. Don't throw your closed-toed shoes away, but give them the vacation they deserve. And now, back to our show. Let's talk another famous, groundbreaking baseball player, Jackie Robinson.
Ah, yes. So, baseball, just like The rest of America was filled with pieces of shit, racist pieces of shit, just horrible people, making it exclusionary, locking the doors, saying, excuse me, African American man, excuse me, black man, you're not allowed to play the game. You got to be a white, you got to be a whitey white, you got to be a lily white piece of shit if you're going to play the game. And then finally, Branch Rickey, the owner of the Brooklyn Dodgers, he said, you know what? Anyone else think we're being racist pieces of shit? And a couple of the other owners said, you know what? You got a point there, Branch. Yeah, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, Kennesaw Mountain Landis.
That's a name.
Indeed, that was a man. He said, you know, Branch, am I a piece of shit? Well, if you keep being racist and not allowing baseball to be integrated, yeah. I am allowed to curse on this?
You are.
You're a motherfucking piece of shit. So they decided to bring in a little experiment. They'd start with one player, and that player was Jackie Robinson. And that was no easy deal. You had to be not only the best player, but you had to mind your P's and Q's because you're still surrounded by racist pieces of shit who are using this as a beta test, as an experiment. And they're like, oh, if you can't do it, well, that. Jackie Robinson, next level player, next level gentleman. I got to shake his hand once.
Tell me of that tale.
Dodger Stadium, 1959. I was still elderly then.
I haven't been able to
I'm not
discern
going
your
to
age.
ask me how old I am.
How old are you?
That's my little secret.
Oh, how coy.
I was waiting by the player's entrance. In comes Pee Wee Reese. He was the little one. Tommy Lasorda, little Italian fellow, ended up managing the Dodgers. Don Drysdale, Sandy Koufax, the Jewish whiz kid. And then here comes a broad-shouldered, handsome, a beautiful man, beautiful attitude. And I just appreciated everything he'd done. And I went up and I said, may I shake your hand, Mr. Robinson? He shook my hand. I wept. I wept like a child. I just couldn't stop crying. And he asked me to let go of his hand. I didn't even hear him. I held his hand.
Until you were forcibly removed?
Yes, and moments before that, my bowels evacuated. I just lost all control.
Mm-hmm.
I was a puddle of a man.
We get it.
Reduced.
Let's move on.
For 2 years, for 2 years after that, incapable of erection.
Okay. Now, speaking of pieces of shit, as you mentioned, what about the Black Sox scandal? They made a whole movie, Field of Dreams, about it.
Yes, the movie Field of Dreams and the John Sayles movie 8 Men Out, starring John Cusack. Let me take you back to the 1920s. We were in the rootin' tootin' roarin' 20s. You know why it was called the roarin' 20s?
Tell me.
Lions!
No, that's not it at all. But continue.
The grand old game was in full swing, and they were hitting the ball and running the bases like nobody's business. Well, the World Series back then, it was 15 games.
Oh, rough.
Yes, and they said, hey, you guys, come over here. You know who said come over here? The mob. The dirty, mobbed-up, money-betting mob. And do you know what kind of business the mafia and the mob get into?
Illegal.
Bad, illegal business. And they called the White Sox over. Come to our office. Well, we got to go to the ballpark today. Nah, come here. We got a proposition for you. Here's a sawbuck or two and a bottle of gin, and there's more where that comes from if you throw the game, if you pretend that you don't know how to play anymore. So the White Sox, they said, Should we do that? And then one of the other players said, but they'll call us the Black Sox. Why the hell would they do that? The other players said, because we're naughty and bad. And it's like, oh, instead of a white cowboy hat, we're wearing the black hat because we're the bad guys. And that's like, no, that's stupid. We're the White Sox. But what do you call them these days? They're the Black Sox. It was the Black Sox scandal. So the mob said, pretend that you don't know how to play anymore. And a handful of these boys, they showed up the park and they acted like they got amnesia from getting in a head-on collision in a car wreck. They wandered the field. They ran the bases the wrong way. They held the wrong end of the bat. One guy, he took the bat and two of the balls, and he walked around the field like it was a penis and testicles, saying, look at me, I forgot how to play the game. And the umpire blew the whistle and slapped him and said, what are you doing? I'm calling you out for being a cheater because you don't know how to do it. You're throwing the game on purpose.
Okay.
And the fans booed, and they ran out on the field, and they created little scarecrows of the players, and they burned them in effigy.
Okay. So we've explained that.
Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Yes, let's get to Shoeless Joe. Do you believe he is one of them, or that he was unfairly maligned?
Shoeless Joe took a little bit of money from the mafiosos, maybe even Al Capone himself.
Oh.
And then Shoeless Joe, he remembered how to play, though. If you look at all his statistics from that World Series, he got the hits, he got the runs, runs scored. I've had the runs before.
Yeah, we know.
Sometimes you'll get a hold of a bad gas station
Joe
sandwich.
DiMaggio. Tell us about old Joe DiMaggio.
The lightning kid from Brooklyn, Queens. Did you know he was a real five-tool player?
What does that mean?
He had all the skills that pay the bills. He could throw the ball. He could hit the ball. He could run the bases. He could hit for power. He could climb the wall. He could kiss the girls. He could wink at the boys once in a while. He could swallow his liquor.
You've moved past 5 skills.
Well, that's how good he was. All the tools and then some. He even knew he could go out to your garage, build a birdhouse at your workstation, and not even blink an eye.
He could seduce Marilyn Monroe.
Yes, he did. Marilyn Monroe, one of the
Say her name again.
Marilyn.
There's an R in there.
Marilyn Monroe.
There you go.
Marilyn Monroe, one of the actresses of the time.
The actress of the time.
I remember she was in The 7-Year Itch. And in that movie, when I was a younger man, still elderly, but younger than now, she had this scene where her beautiful white dress blew up in the air.
She was standing. You on baseball.
She was standing on a subway grate, and it blew up in the air. And when I was a younger man, I ran up to the screen and tried to look up the dress from the screen.
Mm-hmm.
But since then, I realized I want to see a little cheesecake, but I won't watch people go all the way.
Oh, yeah, we circled back to that. It wasn't nudity, but it could have been nudity.
I had to check. I got right. I pressed right up against the screen. I was pulled out of the theater.
We've talked a lot of
Broadway and 42nd Street.
Thank you. We've talked about a lot of classic baseball players.
The kings of the diamond.
Let's move to more modern times and a scandal that seems to plague all of them, which is doping. We have our Mark McGuires. Tell me about this modern age of drugs, steroids, and famous baseball players.
It doesn't start as recently as you propose. You see, if you go back and read Jim Bouton's famous book, Ball 4, he talks about all of the naughty business these bad boys of summer got up to.
Ooh, tell me.
This was the 1960s. So nowadays, okay, you got the steroids. It helps you heal faster and build big muscles. So you get out there and you look like a UFC heavyweight champion, or you look like World Wrestling Federation, World Wrestling Entertainment's John Cena up at bat, all muscular with your muscles rippling under your shirt like a sweaty hunk. Well, back in the 1960s, they'd pop these little pills to give them pep, to give them zing, to give them that extra step on the ball field. I'm talking about amphetamines. They called them greenies, these pills. And they were everywhere. They had bowls of them in the locker room, like M&Ms or combos. You don't see combos as much. I love those pretzels filled with cheese. Sometimes it's a flavored cheese. Some of them have a little bit of pizza spice in them. But you don't see combos as often. Like if you go to a snack bar and you ask, do you have the pretzel snack combos with cheese? Sometimes they don't even know what you're asking.
It's one of the great American tragedies.
So they would pop these pills, and then they'd be out there, woohoo, I'm going crazy on the bases. Oh, I'm forgetting about my pain, my torn ankle, my ripped hamstring, my pulled groin. So that was the drugs that was fueling them back then. Now they stick the needle.
Human growth hormone.
Human growth hormones. And they have creams. They have steroid creams. Have you ever slathered your body in a steroid cream?
I have not. Have you?
Yes.
Tell me, where do you come down on this? Do you think, well, it's the nature of the game. Everyone's doing it, so everyone should do it?
You know, it became so rampant, so prevalent in the 90s. In the early 2000s. And then you got some of the best players on this go-go juice, jacking themselves up, looking like Paul Bunyan. Because some of the best players did this, they can't get into the Hall of Fame. They're barred. They're persona non grata in the eyes of the Baseball Writers Association of America, who votes on the Hall of Fame. Even though someone has the greatest statistics of all time, your Barry Bonds, your Roger Clemens, your Mark McGwire, they are standing out in the cold, looking at all the handsome plaques in the Hall of Fame. By the way, if you got a mustache, they'll put it on the plaque.
I know that all of their faces could be accurately represented if they had just not taken drugs.
So I think you need to put maybe a little asterisk on the plaque, and you say, listen, this guy was a cheater and a half, but he also knew how to swing that big old stick of his. Let him in the Hall of Fame, but you got to put a little note. Or maybe you have a new wing of the Hall of Fame called the Naughty Boys Room.
Ooh,
and
that
then
could
you
be fun.
And then you put the bad boys, the naughty boys, the no good boys, like your Mark McGwire, your Roger Clemens, and one Shoeless Joe Jackson.
Oh, they could all be in there.
Yes, you know who never saw the inside of the Hall of Fame as someone who was enshrined with a beautiful plaque made of him?
Who?
Mr. Pete Rose, the hit king of all time.
Why not?
Because he bet on baseball, and not just a friendly bet. Hey, I bet you, with his friend in the clubhouse, I bet you I hit a double today. All right. You want to bet a steak dinner on it? Sure. Where do you want to go? Ruth's Chris Steakhouse? I love the buttery steaks. No, he had a bookie, a mafioso again. Probably not Al Capone.
No, I imagine they lived in very different time periods.
Yes, they did, as a matter of fact. You're a knowledgeable time scholar.
I am a historian. Let's talk about time and how it changes things. We mentioned already that they're speeding up baseball, but they've all...
Tick tock, tick tock. Let's get the game a little faster now, because everyone today doesn't have patience. Ooh, what's on my Instagram? What's on my TikTok? Oh, I gotta go drive a car.
What about designated hitters?
Yes, the designated hitter was something that they came up with in the 1960s. And this was to prolong the career of some of the more out-of-shape gentlemen. Listen, on the football field, which is not a diamond, I don't even think it's related to a gem, the football field. I'll consult my jeweler, my personal jeweler, Ben Bridge. Anyway, the football field, those men, they're behemoths. They are in shape. On the basketball court, you got to run up and down that court like crazy all night long. You're sweating. You end up running 5 miles by the end of a damn basketball game. Those gentlemen, in shape. The baseball players, some of these fellows are very out of shape. Let's just say their body mass index is off the charts, all right? Now, some of them are in shape. Some of them are in too good a shape because they shoot themselves up with those bull elephant hormones, with those horse hormones, and they just, and then they get that roid rage and they take it out on that baseball, and that baseball goes all the way from Miami to Sarasota. But what were we talking about again?
Designated hitters.
Yes. For the ones who like, my legs are shot, my knee is barking at me, my bunions, I got a hammer toe, my tummy hurts. I don't want to play anymore. Please give me my retirement fund. The king of baseball at the time, the commissioner, who was named Dr. Felix Rouvel. Dr. Rouvel said, whoa. You're not going anywhere. You're going to stick around and hit a few times a game. Really? But I can't play the field anymore. You don't have to go in the field. You just hit. We're going to designate you to hit. Now, all the National Leaguers, they said, we don't like it. As a whole, we are presenting a united front. We'll quit the game if we got to have it. So all the out-of-shape guys went over to the American League, and the American League had the designated hitter. And they coexisted on these different paths. The National League, the pitchers would hit. In the American League, the designated hitter would go up to bat for the pitcher. And in the National League, the pitchers were always bad hitters because they never learned. They said, I'm going to practice throwing the ball, and I'm going to completely eschew the art of hitting the ball. I'm not going to get up at the plate. I don't like it. All those hitters. May I curse on this program?
Yes, you may. This is the third time you've asked.
All those hitters, they would say, all those hitters can go fuck themselves and suck a rhinoceros's balls. And they put them in the wind. They didn't want to be around the hitters. They say, I'm just going to concentrate on pitchers. I'm better than you. And then the hitters would say, for real, you think you're better than me? Yes, I do think I'm better than you.
I love these little plays you do.
Thank you. And then sometimes they'd come to fisticuffs and they say, I'm a pitcher, I'm eccentric, I'm only going to throw the ball, and when it's my day, I'm very superstitious. I'm not going to step on any of the white lines of the baseball field. I'm going to skip around. I'm going to put my favorite music on in the clubhouse. Well, what kind of music is it? I want to listen to the rock and roll of the day. No, sir, I'm a country boy, and I'm going to listen to Conway Twitty and the country sounds of Willie Nelson and Patsy Cline.
So it's not allowed in one league.
What's not allowed?
The designated
That's
hitters.
where we were.
And it is allowed in another league.
Yes.
But when they become one league, where are we now? Do we still have designated hitters?
So they were. Let me explain. There are two leagues, the American and the National.
Yes, which is what I just said.
But then they're all under the umbrella of the major leagues. Mm-hmm. Now there are still two leagues.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, the American and the National. Now, at a certain point, the commissioner, maybe Fay Vincent, maybe A. Bartlett Giamatti, maybe it was Bud Selig himself, one of the commissioners said, you know what? These pitchers are so bad at hitting, it's making me sick to my stomach. It's like I got... May I ask you a question?
Is it bowel related?
No, it's testicle related.
I'm sure my answer will be no, as I do not have testicles. But
Thank
continue,
you.
Please.
When you get hit in the testicles hard, and I've been hit by many line drive baseballs.
Intentionally?
In the groin. A couple of times intentionally and several times unintentionally. But I started like, I want to know what it feels like. Why do they have to wear a hard cup to cover their junk? Why can't they let it swing free? Because I don't like being bunched up.
No one does.
I thought it would be more advantageous to play the ball game swinging free with your stuff. But then why would you put it in a cup? So I'm like, let's see if it's as bad as they say to get a line drive right in your junk groin. So I did. And I'll tell you what, I know why they wear the cup now. The pain, not just in my testicles and groin, but into my stomach, so bad.
So the commissioner,
He got sick to his stomach so bad, almost like he got hit in the groin with a line drive. He said, I can't take watching these pitchers hit anymore because they're so anemic at the plate. Their batting averages are so low. Guess what a low batting average might be?
7.
Yes, it's like just 7 points, not 300. So, but it would actually be .007. So that is astronomically low. Or maybe .07, so you're batting 70. But that's what a 7 batting average might be in terms of these pitchers. Not a good batting average. We're not talking about good statistics. We're not talking about fine sabermetrics.
So he changed it for everyone? He made it that everyone...
He said, I decree, as the commissioner of baseball, from this day forward, the designated hitter will appear in both the American and the National League.
How did everyone take it?
A lot of the baseball purists, like myself, were up in arms. They said, you take away a lot of the scheming the managers do, the plotting. The managers, they wring their hands maniacally, like a movie villain, twirling their mustache, thinking, how do I plot and navigate this game in order to play 4-dimensional chess and outfox the other squad? Well, now it's just, I'll send this big bohunk with bad knees up to the plate to hit every time, and my weakling little pitcher will just twiddle his thumbs until it's time to get on the mound and throw the ball again. So you take away that aspect of the game. But for a lot of the fans, they're more excited because you're going to see more long balls, more homers, more gonzo balls, more dingers, more ding-dongs, more ring-a-ding round the bases. Here we go. Touch 'em all. You've hit a home run, and you might just have scored your team the winning victory.
Before we get another conversation about your bowels, I think it's time to wrap up. Retiree and baseball aficionado Clarence Mills.
Yes.
Please tell the people where they can find you.
Oh, well, you can find me hanging outside the ballparks, driving around late at night, listening to the radio in my Hyundai Sonata.
If someone wanted to reach out to you on social media, say, is there also an address or email? And to you, dear listener, go out and touch grass, see the world, pick up a ball, pick up a stick and hit it. Maybe you'll hit someone in the crotch, or maybe you'll find a love of something you never knew you loved. Until next time. Hal, thank you so much for doing this.
Colleen, so great talking to you. You know, I do have a lot of actual baseball memories. I do love the grand old game. I will say, I'll be vulnerable for a moment. Like I just find the game so relaxing. I was raised with it, and when I've had anxiety in my life, I've always, I come back to the statistics and watching and listening to the game, and I just find it really soothing, and I just enjoy the heck out of it.
You did our other podcasts, or my first time, and you talked about baseball with your dad.
Yes, absolutely. I talked about going to the World Series and my dad getting mugged at the World Series.
What was the topic? Do you remember?
Was it a familial
road trip or something?
Yeah, might have been Road Trip or Family Vacations.
Yeah, look that up
Yeah.
because Hal's amazing in it and he talks about baseball a lot. Hal, where can everyone find you if they were looking to follow you?
Sure. Please follow me on Instagram, or I'm still on the cesspool known as X, formerly Twitter. It's both just at Hal Rudnick, HALRUDNICK.
Are you on the TikToks or anything?
I have a TikTok, real Hal Rudnick, but I don't use it as much. But I've thought about going back to it. I don't know if you want to leave my whole.
And you do Tournament of Nerds, don't you?
Yes, I do Tournament of Nerds at Dynasty Typewriter. Really fun show. I was at Dynasty Typewriter. I saw your show recently. Oh, so good. Spooky Halloween show, the Hutch of Horrors. And but Tournament of Nerds is a really fun pop culture debate show. And we've had a lot of fun guests and just really funny people do that show. And then I also I host a show for America's Funniest Home Videos on their AFV channel, which you can find on Roku, and you can find it on Tubi, and so maybe you'll stumble across that and see me making yucks about fail videos.
And if you want more Mysterious Historian, she's on TikTok at the.mysterious.historian, and she's on YouTube at The Mysterious Historian 666. Thank you so much. Goodbye.